Thanks once again for dropping by the channel. If you like the content, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, share the video if you enjoyed it, if you felt it was useful. Now let's get into this. So, following on from Dillian Whyte's loss to Alexander Povetkin over the weekend, it's been announced now that the rematch, they're fully intending to go ahead, but that the provisional date for this rematch is November 21st. Now, right off the bat, the first thing I'm thinking of is that's a very, very quick turnaround. I mean, you're talking, what, less than 3 months? So, very quick turnaround. We've seen Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Rybinski. Forget the guy's first name. Is it Odreko or Rybinski or something like that? Yeah, I know his last name is Rybinski. We'll just leave it at that, okay? Now, he's been saying he wants to get this fight done in Russia, whereas Povetkin is just indifferent. He literally, Povetkin is a guy, you give him a date, you pay him, and he fights. He doesn't really care where it is. You give him a date, you pay him, he fights. That's Povetkin in a nutshell. But it's likely we're getting this fight next. In fact, I think it's pretty much guaranteed we're getting this fight next. Dillian Whyte, and I want to touch on something he said actually in an interview with, I think it was IFL, now in a sec. But Dillian Whyte fully intends to go ahead with that rematch. He obviously wants to get revenge over Povetkin. He obviously wants to avenge that defeat. And he obviously wants to get his crack at the WBC title. Because obviously, regardless what happens in that rematch, he ain't getting it in February 2021. That is going to get pushed back until August next year, win or lose. And in fact, I think if he actually wins the rematch, it gets pushed back again. Because a mandatory resets, I think, pretty much like a year to the date or something like that of the previous mandatory losing. I think it's something like that. The WBC rules are all a bit over the shop. But anyway, we'll get into this. The main thing I want to talk about this video is what I think Dillian Whyte can do differently and how I think he can win a rematch against Povetkin. Now, right off the bat, when I heard the date, November 21st being announced, right, and I still think this, I thought, too soon. Way too soon. If there's any residual damage, such as a concussion, I don't know if that's enough time to even get over that. I mean, think of it like this, right? That was such a heavy knockdown, alright? If there's even a mild concussion there, okay, you're essentially telling me that Dillian Whyte will start sparring in 2-3 weeks, maybe a bit more. That's still not enough time for that concussion to heal. Alright, that's still not enough time. Assuming he is, and I would imagine he is, considering the nature of the knockout. You're essentially going to get more damage done. It might not be fully recovered. You might need to be fully recovered by the time he gets in the ring, in terms of, from the concussive effect. And you're going straight in there with a guy who can knock you out with one punch. There's a lot of red flags about this rematch happening in November time. If they put it back to February next year or March, then I would have more confidence in picking Dillian Whyte. I won't be picking Dillian Whyte in this rematch. Make no mistake about that. I'm going with Povetkin to win this rematch. Definitely. Probably by knockout. And in fact, definitely by knockout. Because I'll tell you why. Dillian Whyte gave an interview with IFL. And he's already saying in the rematch he's going to go for the knockout and knock Dillian Whyte, or knock Povetkin out. He needs to do an AJ and box safety first in that rematch. So the title of this video is, how can Dillian Whyte win a rematch with Povetkin? I think the best way he can win a rematch, if it's happening this year, is to just go full-blown AJ versus Ruiz. Now, that's easier said than done because there's a lot of differences between the two guys. But Dillian Whyte, when he boxed on the outside with Povetkin, he was showing that he has a good jab. I've always said Dillian Whyte has a good jab. It's underrated jab. But he was doing good work with the jab. He was getting a few check left hooks in. He was landing some right hands. He was going to Povetkin's body. He needs to just do that times 10. He needs to use his legs a little bit and move around that ring. Seriously. That's how I think he's going to win the rematch. If he wins the rematch, he's just going to want to box negatively and try and pick that fight up on points. Povetkin, do not engage with him. He engaged with Povetkin. He stood there in the pocket too long. Povetkin training for uppercuts, landed a peach of an uppercut, knocked Dillian Whyte out. And that's another thing about this fight that is a red flag, because Povetkin will know going into this rematch, right, Dillian Whyte can hurt me, he can drop me, but I can get up. They weren't massive knockdowns. Whereas Dillian Whyte, he's going to go in there knowing one mistake, this guy can knock me out with one shot. So Dillian Whyte would need to be extra cautious. The reason why I don't think he will, there are several reasons. First of which is that he said it himself, he's already going to go for the knockout. Alright, so in order to go for a knockout, you would imagine he's going to have to go and take a few more risks in order to get that. And I can say, look, I can see Dillian Whyte doing it. Dillian Whyte is a hothead. you know. And that's the second reason why I don't think Dillian Whyte will win this rematch, and why I don't think he'll box safe, is purely because Dillian Whyte is such a fiery character. Like, people will say that, you know, AJ was trying to hold himself back from, you know, going in on Ruiz in the rematch, and to an extent he was, but AJ isn't nowhere near as fiery as Dillian Whyte. Like, Dillian Whyte, you could stick him in a room full of mirrors and this man would start a row with himself. That's the kind of guy Dillian Whyte is. He will see red mist at some stage in that fight. Seriously, he will see red mist at some stage in that fight and he will go for it. That's what I think is going to happen in this rematch. And I think with Povetkin, it's going to be a quick turnaround, which is actually good for him, I believe anyway, because at 41, which he will be by the time this rematch comes about, having long stretches of inactivity is not good. So being able to get back out less than 3 months later, I mean, that's fine for him. You know, he won't be complaining about that. So a lot of red herrings, a lot of red flags about this rematch. Personally, I think Povetkin's going to win the rematch again. I think he's going to knock Dillian Whyte out again. Might knock him out as quick. Might go a few more rounds. I think it will. In fact, I think it definitely will. I think it will go into maybe the mid rounds. But I see a knockout for Povetkin coming, definitely. If you ask me how I think Dillian Whyte could win this fight, thinking how he can win this fight, I don't discount Dillian Whyte winning this fight if he boxes on, like, from long range, sticks a jab in Povetkin's face, moves, jabs to the body, does some good body work, tries to slow Povetkin down. I don't doubt if he does things like that, don't engage, listen to Xavier Miller, do not engage. I don't doubt if he does things like that, he could win this rematch. But Dillian Whyte is such a fiery character, and as well as that, what we're saying, like AJ against Ruiz, AJ's is a lot bigger than Dillian Whyte. He's rangier and he's a lot more athletic. You know, that's a given. So while AJ can do that, I don't think Dillian Whyte can. And as I said, Dillian Whyte, he's not AJ. Ruiz and Povetkin are two different fighters. Yeah, they're both short fighters, but Povetkin, his feet are way, even at 41, are way faster than Ruiz's, because he's not carrying 40, 50 pounds of excess fat. You know, he's quite a light heavyweight in terms of he's always in the 220s, which is remarkable consistency for Povetkin. You never see that with heavyweights, very rarely anyway. So, you know, those are my thoughts on this. Let me know yours. Do you think Dillian Whyte can win this rematch? And if so, are you in agreement with me? You think he needs to box this fight as safe, like keep it safe, keep it long range? Or do you think that, no, Dillian Whyte can afford to exchange with Povetkin, but he's just going to need to be careful? I don't think he can afford to, personally, but no, maybe I'm selling him short. Let me know your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, of course, if you are new to the channel. And as always, people, I will talk to you.